Welcome back, everybody. We have more scary, disturbing TikToks that might make you rethink and change your reality. Videos they're trying to hide from you, all that. Without further ado, let's dive in. Apple AirPods reading minds, scanning thoughts. Guys, I run across this all the time. We just watched a video on Dark Waters 9 where aliens were able to read thoughts and answer questions without you even saying it. So, did they discover the essence of telepathic technology and incorporate that into our today's technology? Let's take a closer look in this theory.
The update regarding Apple AirPods. I've reported in the past that they are using this technology to scan people's brainwaves, collect people's thoughts, essentially reading people's minds. But now there's more information coming to surface that they're filing patents for this. I want to share with you this clip and then offer some more important insights after it. Here it is.
Did you know Apple just applied for a patent so that they can retrofit AirPods to read your mind? Or they didn't apply, they filed a patent. So what it is AirPods, they're fitting them with like electromagnetic sensors. And you guys remember when we talked about they could hook a brain machine up to a person and they could look at something and they could use AI to generate the picture?
Yeah.
So that technology, rather than a full helmet, they have successfully mapped via sensors in AirPods. They've successfully done the same thing. What they said,
Wow.
I was reading in neuroscience.com or something like that. I was reading an article and it said what they're able to do is read that sensor, and they said everybody's electromagnetic pulses are different. And so it's not just an immediate read what you're thinking and then regurgitate it. It's a process of learning. And so they mine and log all of the thoughts, all of the pulses. And so
These in the
I've even heard that our cell phones have heartbeats. How crazy is that? So are they able to read our cell phone? Is our cell phone recording everything and the cell phone's emitting our thoughts? What is going on? But it's happened to me multiple times. I'll just think of something and bam, it'll just pop up as I'm scrolling.
current headphones,
And I don't use iPhone. I use Android, by the way. So if you have Apple and you have similar experiences, drop it in the comments below.
Maybe testing stuff. Who knows?
but they said, the article I found said they did it successfully 5 years ago.
weird.
Come on, Steve.
But you know how they updated the iPhone 15 in France with a software update so it wasn't spitting out radiation?
Oh,
They
yeah.
probably can do the same thing with all their.
Hey, we fixed the radiation.
Think
Oh,
about the
you did.
iPhone, like the heartbeat sensor and all that stuff. Not the iPhone, the watch.
Yeah.
Stuff they're taking out. Like this could be a behind the scenes. Like they're like, we don't like what you're doing with the tech, so we're trying to shut you down.
Is that if they are able to scan your brain waves, they're able to read your consciousness. What is stopping them from actually now suggesting and influencing your consciousness, manipulating your conscious, and giving it thoughts, suggestions, subliminal suggestions to influence your consciousness, control your perception of reality? That means that collectively, all these Apple users, if they are not consenting to this, they are not aware of this, that means Apple can affect the collective consciousness of their users. This is a huge collective they control over because their user base is massive. And when you have this type of control over that many consciousness, you can really shift reality. You can take control of collective reality. This can be a problem when the company is not in the highest and greatest good for all. So this is a problem. Apple has already been proven to be a company that is in service for other nefarious reasons. Lately, they have been sued by the DOJ, so maybe they're flipping sides, but we don't really know the true intentions of Apple.
This is all allegedly and theories for entertainment purposes only. Speculation, of course. Do your own research on everything.
But the fact that they're being very invasive with this technology, collecting people's consciousness, brain waves, brain cycles, not informing the users what they're doing with this data, this is already problematic, and it's already a problem for users not to have informed consent. And using this technology, it's also frying your brain with all these high frequency going through your brains. This is destroying your brain cells. Apple also has.
Where's my tinfoil hat at? Where's my copper crown. Like, we need some type of protection. I need some type of copper headband or something. What would you guys recommend?
To inform users of the health consequences of using their devices. Now, the other thing that I want to point to is that in that movie Minority Report, they are showing to you a probable reality that they want to co-create with your consciousness. And this is the reason why they put that movie out into collective consciousness, is because they're shifting a certain portion of the collective conscious into the direction with Apple's technology.
Oh my God, she is killing it. She said Minority Report. They're using, have you guys seen that movie of how they use consciousness to basically predict the best outcome? Damn. So they're on Minority Report type technology now. That is interesting. And scary at the same time. They really messing with the timeline.
So if you have now devices that can scan people's thoughts, read people's minds, collect people's brainwaves and data, that means that if people have thoughts of committing crimes, thoughts of doing these type of activities, well, Apple's now collecting all these thoughts of that you're having, right? It's going to a database somewhere, and you know all these companies in the US, they have backdoors to all these intel agencies. This is why this movie Minority Report is giving you a glimpse of where this technology can be leading the collective. And it's down a very dark, slippery slope of having total control of people's consciousness, that you lose free will, you don't even have control of your thoughts anymore, and you don't have privacy to the point where they can invade your privacy and then intercept you before any thought crime can be created. This is a huge invasion of people's free will, a violation, obviously, and it's against divine universal law.
That was a good one. A lot of gems that need to be dissected in that video. Now I got to rewatch Minority Report and try to connect the dots. How are they using consciousness to read minds? I love doing it. I watch movies and I'm just seeing what type of signs are they trying to throw us. Do you do the same thing? What type of movies could you say that are more fiction than nonfiction? Or I mean more nonfiction than fiction?
Сереж, ты говорил, он низко не опускается, смотри. Я просто уже думал, что он где-то на нашем уровне.
Just look at how vast it is. Is this a giant quarry? Were they digging out the Grand Canyon looking for artifacts? What happened here? What was it originally? People saying Egypt was here. How many resets? Are we looking at something that survived 4 resets? 2 resets ago, we probably saw structures, but the 3rd and 4th, it just eliminated everything else. We all know about G.E. Kincaid and what he found.
An underground city of giants has been discovered in the Grand Canyon. If only the world's buried cities would rise up someday, but they don't. They're almost impossible to find. Those stories about rediscovered cities, once inhabited by a race of giants, will always fascinate us. Amazing discoveries require great efforts or an even greater amount of luck. According to an article published in the Arizona Gazette in April 5th, 1909, the Grand Canyon was once home to civilization that most likely consisted of individuals of cyclopean proportions. They were huge giants. If such a civilization ever lived,
Cyclopean. That's a new word. That's what they said, right? Cyclopean size. That's new.
surely would have left behind some structure as a testament of its existence. We've already found the red-haired giants in Wisconsin and the huge giant skeletons in Nevada. And the American Native Indians have legends of giants all over the United States. The article mentions the discovery of an enormous underground citadel by an explorer named G.E. Kincaid, who stumbled upon it while rafting on the Colorado River. It's worth mentioning that Kincaid was an established archaeologist and had financial backing from the Smithsonian Institute. The entrance to the city was at the end of a tunnel that stretched for almost a mile underground. Kincaid wrote, "First, I would impress that the cavern is nearly inaccessible. The entrance is 1,484 feet down the sheer canyon wall. It's located on government land, and no visitor will be allowed there under penalty of trespass. Above the shelf which hid it from view from the river was the mouth of the cave. When I saw the chisel marks on the wall inside the entrance, I became interested, securing my gun, and went in. The architecture suggested the builders of the underground city possessed advanced engineering skills."
Look at the elongated head. This isn't the first time we ran across elongated head. I believe they're called Homo sapien or something like that. We'll dive in more into it after this.
The central hub of the subterranean city was a mammoth chamber out of which passageways radiated like spokes on a wheel. The walls of the main chamber were adorned with copper weapons and tablets covered in hieroglyphic symbols not dissimilar to those found in Egypt, so they looked like Egyptian hieroglyphs. Another finding that pointed to an Egyptian link were the mummified bodies, by far the most intriguing thing inside the citadel. No mummy measured less than 9 feet tall, and all of them were wrapped in dark linen. Kincaid wrote he had stood one up and photographed it by flashlight, but that photo is nowhere to be found. Further exploration revealed something about the religion of the city's giant inhabitants. Kincaid states, over 100 feet from the entrance is the cross wall, several hundred feet long, in which are found the idol or image of the people's god, sitting cross-legged with a lotus flower or lily in each hand. The cast of the face is oriental, and so is the carving of the cavern. The idol almost resembles Buddha.
G.E. Kincaid actually did a photograph and we can't see it, a flash photography? Where is that photo at?
Long-haired ass skulls. They saying they might be alien skulls.
Are we in Sumerian Anunnaki territory? Oh no. But look at the back of his dome piece. Look. Where are these skulls located? Is the rock a conehead? This episode is way too much for me.
They are not fallen angels. They are critters. We do have a map that's left over from there because it shows the coastline of Antarctica before the ice froze on it. I'm talking about a large skull.
You talking about disturbing TikToks? Looking at his damn mouth? There's no way. I would be terrified to watch this.
These hairy giants, half men, half beasts, that they're fighting up in these mountains, Assyria. Some 10 feet tall. Smell so bad you can smell them downwind a half a mile away.
Is a different species. They're not the human race. They're called Homo capensis. They have been on Earth together with humanity for before this ice age. They are not fallen angels. They are critters. We do have a map that's left over from there because it shows the coastline of Antarctica before the ice froze on it. I'm talking about a large skull. some are in Peru, some are elongated, but in other places they're just round like pumpkins, and the individuals.
History would dictate what happened in those ghettos. So elaborate.
These were traitors to their people who were helping because they thought they were going to save themselves. That's maybe why they did that, but it doesn't matter what their motives were. They were doing the work against their people. Now, think of this as an elaboration on a larger scale, and what we're dealing with actually is humanity and the elite, the secret societies, the Vatican. They're traitors to humanity, because the one at the very core that's pulling the strings is a different species. They're not the human race. They're
Damn, is that what the custodians could be?
called Homo capensis. They have been on Earth together with humanity for before this ice age.
This species, an additional species of humans, or
no, they're not humans. They are so distinct from humans that if they were to mate with humans, their offspring would not be fertile.
Are you speaking of the biblical Nephilim is an entity that people have discussed and tried to understand for millennia, and that is the race of offspring of humans and the fallen angels from.
No, these are not angels. These are not spiritual.
Well, the Nephilim themselves were the offspring of the fallen angels and humanity. Is this the same
They
species?
are not fallen angels. Mm-hmm. They are critters. People who I am getting emails from saw them the day before. They look just like human beings, except they have these big skulls.
Damn, the coneheads? Oh my God. They made maps in previous ice age, the remnants of their civilization all over the place. A lot of the time they're along the coast submerged because of the sea levels have gone up by 400 meters. By this, their large brains, their very descendants from Homo sapiens, their DNA is so different that if the two species mated, their offspring would be infertile, and we know this because their DNA was just tested. They have skulls all over the place because they had been on Earth with us, but after the ice age they weren't that many of them, and so they've been hiding, and one of the places they have been hiding is the Vatican. That's why the Vatican are wearing those mitres or whatever, those cone heads. Turns out that they also want the high priest war in the early beginnings of Judaism. Homo sapiens presumed humanoid with a large brain and an IQ of 180. It would have been maintained a world hegemony, I don't know that, since ancient times. Researchers like Dr. Edwin Spencer have exposed archaeological evidence of these human hominids with elongated skulls from around the world, evidence from 50,000 years ago in South Africa, and even the people like Akhenaten, the Egyptian pharaoh. Damn, now we in conehead territory? Oh my God. Activate submersible. We gotta look into the coneheads. Homo capensis. I know I'm saying it wrong, yo. I apologize. But I'm doing my best. You have got to be kidding me. Homo capensis.
Homo capensis, capataz de los reptilianos, controlan la granja humana desde la luna, por eso sufrimos de...
Look at the back of his head. I know it's in Spanish, y'all. My fault. But look at the back of his dome piece. Look. Now we in Sumerian Anunnaki territory. Oh, no. Reptilians? No, no.
de eugenesia, somos su alimento. Homo capensis.
What does that say? Almanac? Syria? Drop in the comments y'all thoughts, man. We in Conehead territory, Anunnaki, Sumerian. I don't know. It's like they're the Prometheans, the engineers, and Alien vs Predator might have something to do with it. We see a giant skull they found. I don't know how much validity that has.
Franchi, joining me now for the special web edition is World Bank whistleblower Karen Hudes. She's one of many of a co-edition. Web edition is World Bank whistleblower Karen Hudes.
Karen Hudes. I know I got the OGs in the chat. Man, you don't know about Karen? No. I didn't know about Philip and I didn't know about Karen, but I'm finding out now. I hear you guys in chat right now. Oh, you didn't know about Karen? Man, I just found out, okay? The coneheads and stuff. That's before my time. But I found it now and I'm piecing it together.
She's one of many of a coalition of whistleblowers who are making waves across the planet. She's joining me now in studio. Karen, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me on, Barry.
Karen, just before we went to air, we were discussing the global corruption, the global syndicate, the bankers. Who are these people? Who are the individuals? Who are the puppet masters pulling the strings of the bankers?
Well,
because you had mentioned the Jesuits in a previous interview, so I'm intrigued as to know where's the connection to the Jesuit order, as well as through the Vatican and beyond. There's many secret societies in the world. Many people speak of the Illuminati and the Masonic orders, the Order of the Garter, many of these super elite organizations that operate in secrecy. So I know I've named a few already, but if you could help us elaborate on these points, who are the people pulling the strings?
Well, do you remember when there were ghettos and you had something called a Judenrat that were the ones that would draw up the lists of the Jews that were going to get exported the next day? Do you remember how that system worked?
Well, it was a little before my time, but history would dictate what happened in those ghettos. So elaborate.
These were traitors to their people who were helping because they thought they were going to save themselves. That's maybe why they did that, but it doesn't matter what their motives were. They were doing the work against their people. Now, think of this as an elaboration on a larger scale, and what we're dealing with actually is humanity and the elite, the secret societies, the Vatican. They're traitors to humanity, because the one at the very core that's pulling the strings is a different species. They're not the human race. They're called Homo capensis.
Are those the custodians? Are the Anunnaki and the custodians aka the Homo capanesis, are they on the same team? That's why. Hold on, y'all. Always feel like someone's watching me. Hey, that song hits different now, I'm telling you. But anyway, Karen, what if these things was the custodians and the... Now hear me out. What if the custodians and the Anunnaki working together, y'all? What if they are working together and they already got our little earth realm, our inner earth, inside the ring occupied? They battling through, you got to go through the North Pole to get down to the real action. That's where I'm at. That's where I feel like conflict is really taking place. And we got the good guys trying to fight, man, because they got us on lockdown like Matrix.
They have been on Earth together with humanity for before this ice age.
You heard it, before this ice age. They knew about these resets. They probably started the resets, to be honest with you. All right. We need to dive into Karen. Is she still alive?
It's safe to say that those who stand behind all of the central banks are from the same group.
That is very safe to say, yes. But it's more than the Bank for International Settlements. The BIS was created in 1930 for war reparations for Germany. But in the meantime, that group didn't just come on the scene suddenly. They're in front of something which has been going on for centuries. If you go back and read what was going on in the Middle Ages, when we had a Dark Ages, we are right now at the same point that we were in 400, which is when we went into the Dark Ages, because their currency failed. But we're at a point that that doesn't have to happen. And as a matter of fact, the chance that it doesn't happen is 90 to 95%, because we know what's going on and we're not going to let it happen.
Tell my viewers what the Federal Reserve is, how they came into this country in one of the worst dastardly acts in the history of our country.
That was in 1913. What they did was they had a secret meeting. Griffin wrote a book on this, and they waited until most of the members of Congress had gone home at Christmas time, and then they passed this legislation. And by the way, the Federal Reserve note is unconstitutional.
Correct. And what Kennedy tried to do and what Reagan tried to do was to essentially uphold the Constitution, which said what? That Congress would coin our money, correct? So there would be some accountability to the money. Am I right?
Yes, but it wasn't just up to Congress. The states could also issue currency in silver and gold. That was something that they were entitled to do.
So Connecticut could have its own currency. New York could have had its own currency.
Some of the states are now recognizing precious metals as currency. I believe 5 of them are doing this.
Wow. So in 5 states, you could go in to a store and have silver or gold and you can purchase things?
I think the way they're doing it is they're actually minting the currency in precious metals in those countries. But yes, I don't think you go into the store as much. But you know, one of the things that I've learned, if you're trying to use gold coins, that's worth a lot of money. It's how are you going to buy your groceries with currency like that? It turns out that you can press gold very, very thin and put it in a plastic envelope and have the amount of gold equal to the face amount of that currency. And so that's what countries are actually poised to do. to issue real currency, real valuable currency, where you don't have interest charged.
We have a situation in this world where I don't know how many fiat currencies there are, but essentially they're only really worth the paper that they're printed on without the backing of silver or gold, correct?
Yes and no, because don't forget that if countries are responsible for repaying the debt, you've got the labor of the whole citizenry of that country. And what the bankers have done is they've taken the birth certificates of babies and they've estimated how many taxes those babies are going to be paying for in their lifetime. And they've taken that birth certificate and they've floated it on the capital markets and earned money on it.
So they took a shot at how much money they thought I would make in my lifetime because I had a social security number, right? And they basically rolled the dice on a capital market and made money off it. Is that what you're telling me?
A lot of money, that's right.
Of every citizen that had a social security number.
It gets much worse. Yes, not only that, but if you two citizens are married by a justice of the peace, they're not actually married. Because the person that the justice of peace is marrying is somebody with capital letters.
The straw man.
That's right. That's right. And without bothering to tell people, and what I just found out a month ago, and this, as a lawyer, was something which was, it shocked me to my very foundations. What I found out is that the courts that we are going to are not real courts. What the bankers have done is when you go to a bank and you sign your signature card, there's little fine print underneath that says subject to the bank rules. And if you read the bank rules, inside is a waiver of your right to a real court. You have waived your right to a real court. I found this out from, there's a fellow named George Mercier who used to be the clerk of the courts in New York, and he wrote a paper called Invisible Contracts. So what I did, I sued the World Bank. I bought a World Bank bond, which meant that I was allowed to sue the World Bank, and I sued the World Bank because its financial statements are incorrect. I knew this because as a lawyer inside the World Bank, when I tried to correct a project that was where the board was being lied to, it was a cover-up, and I tried to correct that, I was punished, and the board was never told that they were lied to. Now that means that the internal controls are lacking. Any accountant that tries to correct the financial statements is going to be fired because there's no recourse as an employee. You're not allowed to sue the World Bank. What you're allowed to do is you're allowed to go to an internal tribunal called the Administrative Tribunal. The judges on that tribunal are actually awarded arbitration contracts by another branch of the World Bank called MIGA, the Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency, and also ICSID, the International Center for the Settlement of Investment Disputes.
She's not playing. This is for entertainment purposes only. This entire video, she is not playing. Where is her? How do we vote for her to be on something?
They're given very, very lucrative arbitration contracts. So when you're an employee who's trying to correct the records inside the World Bank that are incorrect, you go to a kangaroo court. And so, but because I was a lawyer inside the World Bank, I knew if I bought a World Bank bond, I could sue the World Bank in the real courts. And that's what I did. And I also sued the World Bank's accounting firm, KPMG. And then I went to all of the regulatory agencies. And I went to all the attorneys general because they were required to protect their citizenry from inaccurate financial statements of an issuer on the capital markets. So I used all the securities laws. And very strange things happened with that case. And finally, all of the executive directors and the board of governors, that's the 188 member countries, settled my lawsuit, and the court refused to recognize the settlement. Now I was astonished. How could that happen? That was in 2012. And so it was kind of like a mystery novel to find out how this could have happened. And now I found out what it is those are not real judges. They're not real courts. And what I did was I went and I spoke to the clerk of the court, and I told them about this study that George Mercier had written about the invisible contracts. And I said, how are we going to get this straightened out? And the clerk said, I'd like you to file another document in the court. So I did. Actually, I filed it in the district court and also in the Court of Appeals. And I found out on the 5th of January that the judge, Judge Boasberg, had written a memorandum opinion ignoring the issue that I had raised. Now that's fraud.
Absolutely.
So I went back to the
Absolutely.
court. I went to the chief judge in the district court, Judge Roberts, and I asked him what he was going to do to correct that situation. And he said, well, I'm not going to do anything. So I then tried to figure out what could I do. Well, these judges that are not sitting in real courts have security bonds issued by insurance companies, surety bonds. So I went back to the Senate Judiciary Committee, and I asked them to tell me who the insurance company was so I could file for damages.
Wow.
Yes?
Yes. That cover these judges, is what you're saying.
That's where
they're
we are.
covered. Oh, that's where we are right now.
Well,
is it safe to say that those who stand...
She said, I'm going for all of them. Man, she is a superhero, low key. Drop your comments, your thoughts below. Did y'all know about this? Wow. The kind of like when people say they're Moorish, and Moors kind of makes sense now. You know, they're like saying, well, that's not really who I am by signing that their name. You know, I get it. They're not real courts too. That's interesting. For entertainment purposes only.
Yeah.
I think we want to cover who these culprits are.
Okay.
All right? It's true. The Rothschilds are involved, but they're by far not the most important players. You've got King Juan Carlos. He's the head of the Farnese Continuum, 3 in 1. He's a high-level knight of the Equestrian Order of the Holy Sepulchre of Jerusalem, Sacred Military Constantinian Order of St. George, and he's a Knight of Malta, all rolled into one. And then don't forget the Prince of Naples, Vittorio Emanuele IV. He tries to claim the title of King of Jerusalem. Then, of course, you've got to mention the Pallavicinis. And don't forget Prince Bernard of Lippe-Biesterfeld. And he's married to Beatrix Wilhelmina Armgard, Princess von Oranien-Nassau. So there are a lot of players here, and they thought nobody would find out about them, and they thought they would continue the same kind of shenanigans that they've been pulling for centuries. They didn't count on the fact that humanity was onto them, and their game is up. All the whistleblowers in the world are pooling their resources, trying to sort out what's going on. And so one of the whistleblowers is Michael O'Bannon. He's with a retired military officer, I believe, with the Marines. He wrote a book, and he said that there were 2 ways for the Jesuits to win. One was for them to remain secret. Guess what? They're not secret anymore. And the other way was for the U.S. military to support the Jesuits. Well, he wrote that the U.S. military, the Russian military, and the Chinese military are all working together, and they are bound and determined that we're not going to have a bankster's World War III this time around. Humanity is right on target to take back our world. But I can tell you in excruciating detail from how Ronald Reagan recognized the Jesuits, although they had been banished after the murder of Lincoln, because Lincoln was also trying to have honest money. He had the greenbacks right at the, during the Civil War. He didn't want to pay the exorbitant interest that the bankers were going to charge to finance the Civil War. And the Vatican and the Jesuits were behind the Civil War and manipulating that to keep the United States from being strong.
So you mean to tell me the Revolutionary War, as well as the Civil War, it wasn't exactly what we learned about in history?
That's exactly what I'm saying. So remember when Benjamin Franklin went off to Paris and negotiated the Treaty of Paris? Well, since when, if you win the war, are you ending up paying reparations, which is what the Treaty of Paris was all about? And then remember when our capital was burned down in 1812? Again, the United States was trying to be independent from the United Kingdom, and they were having none of that. No, the lawyers have been very clever in disguising all of this. The Jesuits have been very, very clever in concealing what it is that they've been up to. So that's why people, when they hear about this, their first reaction is to be dismissive, because they cannot believe that something this big can have been kept secret for this long. But I can tell you it's true. A fair number of people have seen me now in the alternative media, but I was working very, very hard from the time that I was fired from the World Bank in 2007 until I started learning my way around the alternative media. It was 5 years, and the mainstream media is owned and controlled by the Jesuits, and they own the financial companies. People think that all the banks are separate. It turns out they're one big conglomerate, and this is easy actually to document because the Federal Institute of Technology in Zurich, Switzerland, three mathematicians did a very good study and can show that all of the banks that people think are separate have the same exact directors that go from one board of directors to the other. So the banks are all interconnected. That's how come you had the LIBOR scandal. There's an incredible amount of insider trading. The Securities and Exchange Commission is completely bought out. What happened with Bernie Madoff was not one-off. And I had the Serious Fraud Office called up the...
I have no idea what she's talking about mostly, but I have a good feeling it's the truth.
Humanity, because the one at the very core that's pulling the strings is a different species. They're not the human race. They're called Homo capensis. They have been on Earth together with humanity for before this ice age. And the reason I know about this is because I was trying to help out a movie producer who couldn't get his movie. It was called The Banksters Made Off with America, Edmund Drille. And he introduced me to his network of whistleblowers. One of the people in that network is a neurologist who went to Yale Medical School and was retired, and he was trying to find out what was at the very core of all of this corruption. And
so you mentioned this species, an additional species of humans, or
no, they're not humans. They are so distinct from humans that if they were to mate with humans, their offspring would not be fertile.
Now, are you speaking of the biblical Nephilim is an entity that people have discussed and tried to understand for millennia, and that is the race of offspring of humans and the fallen angels from...
No, these are not angels. These are not spiritual.
Well, the Nephilim themselves were the offspring of the fallen angels and humanity. Is this the same
They
species?
are not fallen angels. Mm-hmm. They are critters. People who I am getting emails from saw them the day before. They look just like human beings, except they have these big skulls. And that is why in the Vatican you see these crazy meters, is what they're called. And that...
We got to dive more into that. I'm not done. I know we've seen this one, but I'm trying to put the pieces together. Some videos show a little bit more, so it's like, all right. Drop your comments below. What's going on?
And that's why the very first Jew, Moses, wore one of those things, because he was one of those Homo capensis as well. We have DNA samples of them. And the reason we know this is because it was in the papyri of one of the pyramids. I found this out from the
Hold on. What is a papyri? She getting a little off the wall now. Nobody can find where Moses was buried. I know that. Papyri. Not papaya. Papyri. They're just saying papyrus, the first paper. So I'm thinking it's like maybe a manuscript she might have read or something, but still nobody knows where Moses is buried. Now she getting a little outlandish. I was rocking with you, but now it's getting a little crazy.
internet. But what is really remarkable, actually, is that we have had so much evidence, and we haven't had any studies into it. If you look at the archaeology, there is a civilization off the coast because the sea level has risen by 400 meters. But what do we know about this ancient pre-Ice Age civilization? We do have a map that's left over from there because it shows the coastline of humanity. Because the one...
Have you guys ever heard about the indigenous castles of America? All of the historians state that our castles was turned into prisons and colleges, with the Alcatraz prison being the most famous one. This is where Queen Khalifa Castle sat. Okay, let's get into how we lost our homes that we built. We've been fighting with the invaders since 1492, but I want to talk about the recent wars. We had our own military over here in America. This is what they don't tell you. A lot of us had to leave our family and children and go fight in this war. With our last stronghold being down in Florida, we had tribes come from all over the world to help us. This is why so-called slavery was still going on in the South in civil wars. The invaders was organized in the North. The invaders from the South would tell the invaders up North that the war is over and that they won. But the whole time, we were still fighting each other. The war was never over, but they started rounding us up, holding us as hostages. Just for the record, we was never slaves. We was POWs. And this is when they started to move inside of our castles. And they seen that we had dungeons on the bottom level. So instead of them building their own jails, they just threw us inside of our ancestors' house. And usually, the warden of the prison would stay up on the top level. These castles are ancient, and it belongs to our ancestors. They don't have enough knowledge or creativity to build something like this. Now, the newer box rectangle buildings, these is considered their newer prisons. But the castles belongs to us, the children of the sun. Peace and ashe. Have you guys ever heard about the indigenous castles of America? All of the...
Yeah, they were black. The Anunnaki were black, but they weren't us. They had ceased being us a long, long time ago. And for those that know, they know. Anyhow, they came in and they caught us off guard. They came in the lower Kemet. And while the defenses were down, they took over. You know what I'm saying? This is just the reality. We got hit, took our first hit, and they did what they do. They did what they do best. They started to imitate us. They became pharaohs in that region. And for 400 years, they enslaved the African Hebrews that were in that region that had been contributing to Kemet with their sciences and their knowledge and their art. And they took these African Hebrews that were in Lower Kemet, what we now call Israel, and they marched a lot of them to Babylon. They marched them to Babylon, enslaved them, and forced them to divulge their knowledge, their science, their art, and they took that knowledge and they used it to genetically alter creatures, some of the first, you know what I'm saying, genetic research was going on. They were creating humanoids. They wanted to live forever. They wanted to create vessels that they could transfer into and live forever. is how crazy they were. And so, Tahaka in Upper Nubia, in Upper Nubia, forms an army of 150,000 Africans from 7 different nations. And they go on a warpath. They're taking out everything that is not African. Everything that can't grow an afro must go. Plus, they're coming to get the Hebrews. These are their brothers. Through blood. You understand me? So they begin to take these Assyrians, they begin to take them out. All the way up to what we call Lebanon. And when Taraka gets up to this region, he realizes, damn, his troops start talking about seeing these giants, these hairy giants, half men, half beasts, that they're fighting up in these mountains, Assyria. Some 10 feet tall, smell so bad you can smell them downwind a half a mile away. He tells to who? To build a wall. You think the Great Wall of China was mighty? They built this wall knowing that this wall could block these beasts from ever entering the Holy Lands again. They would have to take the Arabian Desert. So the legend goes.
That is interesting. Drop in the comments below if you got any more information.
The Anunnaki were black, but they weren't us.
What you're looking at here behind me is not an oil rig, y'all. This is an AI platform known as Dell Complex. And the reason why they have created is because they want to push artificial intelligence to its limits. In a sense as this being on international waters, like there's no regulations. Do you understand what I'm saying? So they can go balls to the walls with the type of technology that they create upon this.
Meet the Blue Sea Frontier Compute Cluster, a concept proposed by a company named AR Corp. The goal is a massive floating computer that can sit in international waters, move anywhere in the world, and will be used to deploy the next generation of large-scale AI models, free from government regulation. The call comes from the Biden administration's recent AI executive order and the EU's AI Act, aimed at centralizing AI control under the guise of safety. The compute cluster will be equipped with over 10,000 NVIDIA H100 GPUs per platform, cooled by using deep-sea currents and powered by both solar and steam and gas turbines. The complex will come equipped with its own nation-state military force, as well as defenses such as electronic jamming equipment, optical and thermal camouflage, and aerial surveillance. So, what's your opinion of this massive comp?
Now I want to read this for you guys. It says, this executive order features a host of information, but a few of the key points is that developers must share their safety test results with the US government, develop standards, tools, and tests to ensure AI safe, secure, and trustworthy, and protect against AI being used to develop dangerous biological material. Though Dell Complex wants to avoid these regulations, it has considered the safety of the equipment, people, and data that's aboard the BSFCCS. The ship will come with a permanent population of allied nation state military forces and boasts a suite of other defenses like electric jamming and equipment, aerial surveillance, optical and thermal camouflage, all in an attempt to offer robust threat mitigation. What is going on here, y'all? What is going on with this, that they have to accompany all these safety protocols with this floating robot here? So in my opinion, something else must be taking place if you're taking measures this extreme. Like, you can be anywhere creating anything and then messing with anyone, you know what I'm saying, at this point in time. But again, I'm bringing awareness to situations. This video is for entertainment purposes only. Let me know what you guys think about this video. Leave your comments down below. Like, share, and follow for more videos.
Dell Complex, what?
We're about to have an AI ship with over 10,000 NVIDIA GPUs floating in the ocean, dedicated to deploying the next generation of large. We're about to have an AI ship with over 10,000 NVIDIA GPUs floating in the ocean, dedicated to deploying the next generation of large-scale AI machine learning. The Blue Sea Frontier Compute Cluster, BSFCC, proposed by Dell Complex. Massive mega supercomputers that sit in international waters and are free of any country's laws regarding AI. Just as countries are beginning to enact new regulations for controlling AI as they claim for your own safety. These platforms will come equipped with 10,000 NVIDIA H100 GPUs worth around $500 million. They'll be cooled using deep sea currents and powered by solar, steam, and gas turbines. Each ship will also come with its own military force and also be considered a sovereign state, sort of like its own country when floating in the ocean, and governed by their own charter, a document that outlines the rights of residents and visitors. Although the company officially tweeted that they're really doing this, recent speculation has led to believe these are just hopeful dreams. But everything this project mentions is technically true and fully doable. It just might be a while before we see these lawless AI pirate nations arise in the seas. We're about to have an AI ship with over 10,000 NVIDIA GPUs.
AI pirates? Oh, man, why though? Why would they do that? Why would they make artificial intelligent pirates just floating, giving them free range? Drop in the comments below.
Every government in the world is scrambling to regulate artificial intelligence, and they're all wasting their time. Dell Complex just unveiled the most hilarious workaround. Their plan is to put a supercomputer in the ocean, powered by $500 million worth of NVIDIA H100 GPUs. It'll be powered
H100 GPUs really aren't that powerful, to be honest. Like, this is almost outdated now. If they had 10,000 5090s, that would be a different story. But almost the next gen computer graphics card, if you had probably like 10,000, they said they have 10,000. If you probably had 1,000 of those newest ones, you would probably be able to outperform what's floating out in that ocean. That's just what I think. Drop in the comments your thoughts below.
Have immortal souls, and we're in a new reality. And the way that I know that we're going to be victorious and we're going to get rid of this corruption is because of what I did. And the reason I'm allowed to speak for everyone else, it's because I was in the World Bank legal department, and many, many years ago, exactly 50 years ago, the World Bank was created in 1944, and I wrote a paper when I was in law school in 1976 about how important it was that the World Bank was representing all of the people of the world and that the World Bank is a co-op. And I was explaining what Ferdinand Marcos was doing. I wrote a paper between my third and fourth year at Yale Law School. And actually, in retrospect, I was hired into the World Bank just for this very important job, which is to preserve the world's wealth, because that's what the World Bank was created to do. And Ferdinand Marcos is the lawyer, and the one who deposited the wealth of the world in the World Bank was Jose Rizal. Jose Rizal, he was from the Philippines. The world's wealth was buried in the Philippines between the at the end of World War II, and you can see that I'm being attacked because every single moment that I'm with you, the world's what are they? The black nobility. They're trying to prevent me from getting through to you, and I'm able to talk to you. I was able to turn my cell phone on with the music. So you see, although there's a lot of interference, I'm still able to function. And that's the case of everybody in the world. They're all being attacked. And some of us are able to function even though we're being attacked because we can't be hypnotized. And those people who are able to function, we're working for everybody else because you're hypnotized, you've been duped. But as time goes by, we're going to become more and more credible. And as I started out by saying, the military powers of the world, they're along with us. They're part of the critical mass. And so I'm going to sign off for now, and I'm going to...
Guys, this is in Spanish. I'm going to do my best to look at this video and see. Looks like we got a guy holding some skulls They're saying it's elongated. 2 different skulls. They're saying that these are creatures. Could these Homo capensis, my apologies if I'm saying it wrong. What are they? They got all the knowledge. Of course they're going to have a high IQ. Look at the dome. Now they're saying these are grays or something. Looks like they got a book on it. That looks creepy. Damn, is that an actual skull of one? Look at this. I think this was an actual skull. Where are these skulls located? This one still has hair on it. The audio is in Spanish, but they have some interesting slides we have to see. Like this. Look how it has hair on it. Reptiles? I have no idea. Now we can see that Egyptians have the elongated heads. But what is the correlation? Oh no. Says Dr. Aries has studied early humanoid remains discovered in a cave of Petrolona, Greece since the 1970s and is well known for the has studied early humanoid remains discovered in cave of Petrolona, Greece since the 1970s and is well known for his contentious age estimates. The out of Africa theory proposes that Homo sapiens originated in Africa about 200,000 to 100 years ago before spreading the rest of the world. All right, that's a load of malarkey. Oh my God. You gotta be kidding me. The coneheads. I never watched a conehead in my life.
It's not a real tattoo.
Why are they yelling like that, man? Were they really trying to base the coneheads off of some type of alien? I never seen it, but obviously there's something up with some alien technology by how they talking. Some alien civilization how they talking.
Mabs, unacceptable. It's just a decal. Everyone's wearing them.
If everyone jumped into the bituminous cauldron, would you jump into?
I am not a little cone anymore, Dad.
Maintain low tones with me. Maintain low tones. Now go to the hygienic chamber and remove it. Also, you are wearing far too much lip and cheek enhancement.
Mom, that makeup looks okay, doesn't it?
Do not invoke the approval of your other parental unit. Now, if you wish to accompany me to the enclosed retail compound, you will make the necessary corrections and remove the decal. She looked like a common flat rag on payday.
Excellent crop of decorative growth.
You're being nice.
Yes.
Damn, he had sharp teeth too? That is scary. There's no way I could watch that. You talking about disturbing TikToks? Looking at his damn mouth? There's no way. I would be terrified to watch this.
Ain't this some shit here? Okay, so apparently around the world, people finding long-haired ass skulls. They saying they might be alien skulls. So they trying to figure out where they come from. But they ain't really got no idea. Well, I think it don't matter where they come from, cause y'all should leave that shit alone. Because when y'all do find out where they come from, y'all wanna go try to invade their planet and get up. So long story short, it don't matter what kind of skull it is, let's mind our business. Ain't this
some long head?
This is Mr. DeChico. He wants his teeth capped. All of them.
Okay. We'll just take a look. And open wider.
I can't watch this one. I'm sorry, y'all. That looks like The Rock, doesn't it? Is The Rock a conehead? This episode is way too much for me.
Ah! What have you done to your cone?
I can't. I have no words. This is probably the most disturbing episode I have ever made.
My blue barb has broken. The birth spasm has begun.
Oh, hell no. Unbelievable. I know it's Halloween coming up, but damn.
So I know you might be wondering, is this real? Can a newborn baby's head be shaped like this? And the answer is yes. This right here is a normal condition called caput succedaneum. And it's a perfectly normal thing that can happen during childbirth. You see, when a baby is born, their skull bones have not fused together and they're pliable, they're able to move around. And during the birthing process, their skull actually has to deal with a lot of force being put upon it as it's being pushed out of the uterus. And that's why the bones can move and the head can get misshapen based off of what we expect the head to look like. Now, this is perfectly normal, and often within 24 hours, the bones and the swelling kind of reduce, they go back into place, and everything is fine. Yeah. So yeah, this is perfectly normal.
It's really not that bad. It just needs a little shaping.
We're gonna play a game. What do you think that building is? What do you think that building is? What do you think that building is? Those are post offices. That is right. The United States Postal Service. This is what I see all around me. It is an inspiration. These are what the inside of post offices used to look like. This is what a modern post office interior looks like. Those were town halls. These are new town halls. That is the ugliest building I've ever seen, and its even uglier counterpart in Dallas, Texas. That is an old high school. This is a modern high school. That is an old church. This is a modern church. This is a hotel from my hometown. They recently did an addition to it. The addition looks worse than the 100-year-old original. This is the inside of Penn Station. This is the inside of Penn Station now. That was a building for the insane. This is a building for the sick. Architecture used to be proportionate to the things that we see in life every day and inspiring. It's no wonder why kids need legal meth to pay attention in such an inspiring environment. People would rather live inside watching this box because it is more interesting than the reality that they have been disconnected from on the outside world. It's the cheat code to the fusion of art. We're going to play a game. What do you think that building is? What do you think that building is?
Damn. They used to go way harder back in the day. We know this. But post office, though, what are they honestly trying to cover up is a question that just keeps coming in my head. What were these actually for?
And this building used to power itself off the ether. These peaks right here at the top, they're called cathodes. They're all electrical conductors. That center window at the top, that's what your DNA looks like. The door is the magnetic arc. You could see right here at the top of these points right here, they got wires ran off of it. This was all free energy right here. That is not a cornerstone. This is a face stone. No mason would do that. There's going to be a cornerstone with a date and a maker's mark in the foundation. This was built in 900 AD. They added 1,000 years to everything. My father was a stonemason. Look at the weathering on this building. Just look at the weathering on the structure alone. This is 1,000 years worth of weathering. They ran this wire up at the top off the copper railing. This all goes up to one of them cathodes. You could see they poured this concrete right here next to the building. This is not a foundation. This is the next tier up. Look at the brick laid across. See how it goes down? These are all tiers. There is not a cornerstone on any corner of this building. You can see this lower ramp. This all goes down. They put these walls right here to cover up the brick or the stone that they laid. This goes down. These are what the stained glass windows are supposed to look like before they take them out. This is the artificial energy unit that they put on it. This used to be steps going up to the church. They closed this off and bricked it in.
The question that's running through my head is, how deep does this go into the earth? Does it have an underground railroad system?
That's what the inside of your DNA looks like. That peak right there at the top, that's an electrical conductor. The window at the top, those three right there, that's the Trinity. That's what your atom looks like. Right here, this is Tibetan Trikaya, the Asian symbol for a Trinity. And they got them down every single window peak down the side. This was a giant healing center that ran off of free energy. Look at the top, that's all copper. Those are all conductors right there, or antennas. My dad was a mason. Look at the foundation on it. It's abandoned, but someone put a camera on it. These peaks at the top, they're all conductors. They ran off the ether. Even the building next to it with the cross, that's a conductor too. I guarantee you that post right there back in the day was powered by itself.
Look at how amazing that window room is. What would you even call that? A window/sunroom? Man, they used to build out cold, didn't they?
Guarantee you. There's no date on the front, but if there was, they would have added 1,000 years to it. It's 800 AD. It would say 1800 on it. They added 1,000 years to everything. Well, that green is copper. That window right there, they changed that. They replaced that. It used to be all stained glass in there. It's sort of like that, but it was stained. Even at the top, all those windows were taken out. That clock was put in. That clock was not supposed to be there. It's a wooden clock. It does not fit the structure. My father was a mason. These foundations are old as can be. That is literally what your DNA looks like. Even that.
So, let's get started. Let's get to the fun and interesting part. I'm gonna first start off by trying to make you understand that there was an advanced civilization here in the past, which nobody in the so-called education system told you about. Remember the word ether. It's gonna be handy for you later. So, let's get started. Let's get to the fun and interesting part. I'm gonna first start off by trying to make you understand that there was an advanced civilization here in the past, which nobody in the so-called education system told you about. In mainstream history class, we are told that the ancient civilizations were uneducated and dumb-ass cavemen who liked to hit each other with sticks, right? What if I said that couldn't be further from the truth? What if the mainstream history class were specifically designed to hide something from us? Something very important. A truth that reveals the whole fraudulent education system of the modern day alone. We are about to dive deep into the rabbit hole of a past advanced civilization, so buckle up. The evidence of their existence is all around us. The crazy part is how it was only hidden by words of lies. I'm gonna keep showing you pictures here of some buildings while I speak. But not just any kind of buildings. You will see that many of these buildings have a repeated architecture, and we can find them all across this realm. The United States, Europe, Little Norway, Africa, the Middle East, Russia, Japan, Australia. You get it. Everywhere. And for that to be possible, all the civilizations across this realm at that time had to know each other and communicate with each other, right? But have you ever thought the thought that it could have been just one civilization everywhere? That's right. A civilization so huge, so well established and advanced that they built their buildings everywhere. And they were not just buildings. I believe them to be machines and electrical devices. Try to pay attention to the domes, spires, towers, columns, etc. of these buildings. I'm gonna tell you a little secret. Shh. If you look at a city from a bird's eye view and compare them with a circuit board on a computer, it looks identical. Identical. Here, let me show you. This is a city. This is a circuit board. This is another city. This is many circuit boards put together. Do you see it? Here's another one, just to make sure. Circuit board. City. Crazy, right? Previously, I mentioned that I believe these buildings to be machines and electrical components. When you look at the patterns of this universe with an open mind, you'll start to notice that everything looks electric. The human body, leaves, sea creatures, trees, and rivers, just to give some examples. Do these patterns mean that this universe and/or realm is all made up by electricity? Just think about it. Every living thing needs water and energy to be able to live. Energy. Here is a few quotes from Nikola Tesla, who mysteriously were removed from mainstream education systems. If you don't know who it is, I suggest you to look him up. It shouldn't be difficult. Quote 1. If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Quote 2. The day science begins to study non-physical phenomena, it will make more progress in 1 decade than in all the previous centuries of its existence. Quote 3. Earth is a realm. It is not a planet. It is not an object, therefore it has no edge. Earth would be more easily defined as a system environment. Earth is also a machine. It is a Tesla coil. The sun and moon are powered wirelessly with the electromagnetic field, the ether. This field also suspends the celestial spheres with electromagnetic levitation. Electromagnetic levitation disproves gravity because the only force you need to counter is the electromagnetic force, not gravity. Though free to think and act, we are held together like stars in the firmament. Remember the word ether. It's gonna be handy for you later in this documentary. Not gonna say too much about Nikola Tesla in this video, but he was a scientist who was born in 1856 and he died in 1943. I believe him to have reinvented some of the technology from the old world. One of the most important inventions are the free energy from the ether, etheric energy that can be harnessed and stored completely for free.
He basically, Nikola Tesla, I'm not taking any credit from him, but he definitely did take old world technology and just brought it to modern day. We need someone to do that now.
Listen, if this is true, then why the f are we using cabled electricity which we have to pay for? The answer is simple. Greed and power-hungry parasites have turned humanity into modern-day slaves. The worst part is, they don't even know they are slaves. This realm has become a huge mental asylum. It seems like the ancient civilization, which we call Tartaria, knew.
Man, I wish I could go back to those days, man, and just live. You see how they used to do things and how it makes me sad and a little bit, depressed that we live in a world where these are rare now. That's how they did things back in the day. They were way more advanced than us. We are officially going behind. I will say that. Just because we got Optimus Prime, we got new Tesla vans now, we think, oh, we in the future. You know what I'm saying? Man, we are light years behind.
Knew all about this place and how it works. I'll show you more of their architecture while I explain more. The parasites are using extremely big amounts of energy and effort to hide the intelligence of the past civilization from you. They want you to believe in the nonsensical evolution theory and how we are at the peak of human intelligence right now. This is false information. There is a big reason why they want you to believe in the nonsense theories like evolution and Big Bang. It is to make you feel insignificant and worthless.
Alright guys, that's all I got for today's episode. We dug through there with the coneheads, the homo capinus, however you say that. Sorry if I'm butchering it. What was her name? Karen. Man, be sure you talk about anything that you saw interesting on this episode. The code word is alien. Make sure you drop alien at the end of the comment so I know you a real one. You made it all the way through the episode and it really helps your boy out. I'm going to see y'all at the same time, same place tomorrow. I appreciate you guys. If you're new around here, man, I got so many other bangers. Just click my videos, look through the thumbnails, find something interesting. The title you like, whether it's Tartaria, Aliens, Hollow Earth, just all different types of stuff. I go through the Apocrypha. I'm gonna make some better playlists in the future. And yeah, man, I'm gonna get this out to you guys, and I'm gonna see you guys same time, same place tomorrow. Peace out.
Is the Palace of Fine Arts in Mexico City a Tartarian building? Is that an ether energy antenna we're looking at on top of the domed roof? You can see it's got that so-called Roman Greco style. And of course, doors for giants. They say that the original theatre that stood here was demolished after only 56 years. But what if this is the original and they just don't want us to know how old it really is? And as you can see on the inside, things just get more ostentatious. With super high ceilings, seemingly built for something much larger than regular-sized humans. What was this place really built for?
I wish I knew what it was for originally as well.
Is the Palace of Fine Arts in Mexico City?
Just look at the color on top. They got the eagles spreading their wings. stoneworkers, masonries, it just doesn't add up.
So when you think about that, that's traumatic on both sides. That clone, because you shifted consciousness into it, can feel emotions, can replicate emotions, can replicate thought process, and it has a certain amount of memories of that individual that the consciousness came from. And believe me, I'm minimizing this. It's obviously a little more complicated than what I'm saying in these words, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. So as this happens, then these clones get energized, and that begins going around and working in the public eye. And there have been some, say for example, someone that's a movie star or someone that's a singer or something like that. This is done to them, and they do give permission. Most often they have no idea what they're giving permission to. They hear it more as, oh, I want to be a star. We will make you a star. Well, we will make your clone a star. We will make someone that we can manipulate a star. And the human doesn't necessarily realize that. So then that clone goes home, and the rest of the family might be looking at them saying something's different, something's wrong. So if you have someone that is in close relationship, they know that there's something different, there's something wrong. There have been many that tried to find out what's going on, what happened to my family member. And sometimes they found out, and if they did, oftentimes they were eliminated. So many people learn to just be quiet and, again, everything that I'm talking about with this is the energy of the nefarious ones, and it's the energy of what is no longer going to be the prevalence or the premier aspect of what's happening on the earth plane now. When you start hearing this, and we know that more and more people are.
So is she basically saying that they're battling in the spirit realm? I'm trying to get it, what she's saying.
Are beginning to hear these channels, and not only through Shelley, but through many other people. As you hear this, people are like, what are you even talking about? But this has been very legitimate for a very, very, very long time. So then what happens? That original human is kept in a place of stasis.
I'm getting the human stasis, and this is confusing.
Where their physical body has basic minimal maintaining of being alive, so that if they're alive, then they can keep siphoning the consciousness and keep siphoning things into there. I'm just seeing for the first time that there were several people that were super high vibrational frequencies, and they were able to block allowing their consciousness to transfer. And on those individuals, they were not able to do the clone as effectively as they wanted to. And it feels to me as if that person was just eliminated at that point.
When she was talking about the people in the incubators fighting off the conscious field, that kind of reminded me of the scene on The Matrix where they were basically using people for human batteries. So is that what they got us going on in incubation chambers, where they're just harvesting our consciousness, trying to transfer our conscious into a clone? Or are they making our clone? Are they cloning our consciousness? There's so many questions. Scary stuff.
The original, where they were making robots, you could say, these were made from petri dishes. There was a collection of eggs and a collection of sperms, and so they were put together. And because those had been taken from people, now you may say at that time, how could they have ever done an egg retrieval? Well, they did, because they used people from the universe that came in and used that universal technology. Again, not the nice guys. These were the people that were corrupted, and these were the people that were controlling and manipulating. So what we see is like they're taking a sperm, they're taking an egg, and they're putting it together. So it does feel as if a lot of these kids did create a soul for them. This was one of the first ways that they were trying. How can we create a child? Let's figure out where the soul comes from so that we can then steal the soul. And and they made a bunch of children, but they did not steal the soul. Did they actually come from cabbages? Of course not. But they were in incubators that looked somewhat like a cabbage, and that's one reason why they said that. So we do not, as
Incubators that look like a cabbage. I'm trying to put that together. Was it like some type of organic technology? I don't know.
I'm tapping into it, I do not feel like it was thousands upon thousands, as some of these websites are saying, but it was a fairly large number. Some of these were adopted by people that wanted to adopt, and some of these were used for nefarious means. And unfortunately, they have been using children for nefarious means, as many of you are well aware, for a very, very, very long time. So that was a part of what was going on here. And it feels like that was all stopped and taken out. I'm sensing someone that came in, it feels like perhaps from Andromeda or one of the places out in the universe that kind of patrols the universe. And they said, stop, you're not doing this anymore. And so that's what put a stop to it. That's what I'm getting about those. So,
okay, Andromeda interference came in and stopped the Cabbage Patch.
Or to this one, where we are told that this is a construction photo when it's clearly completed. The only construction going on here is the scaffolding. Again and again. People just standing there looking so odd. And it almost looks like they just have a kid here. I mean, look at the detail on top of the columns. It's unbelievable. And I believe that I was correct when I said that they were just painting these buildings. They are not constructing anything. Now let's look down here at the bottom right hand side of this photo. It says right here that these are painters and decorators. They are not building anything like the description says for these photos. And they needed a place to live on site because they were painting all of these old world buildings. They were going to be there for a while. The buildings lasted forever. The paint did not. So they needed to get a fresh coat of paint on there. But when you look at the description of the photo, it says that it's a photo during its construction. So they are clearly lying. Painting is not constructing.
Shout out to my lunch break for exposing them. Double Trouble Monday is the code word. We hit you with a double trouble. Dark Waters 9 and Jet Ski Chuck. It's been an entertaining day. This was scary and disturbing videos that will make you rethink your reality and question everything.